It's great to be here during this time in COVID-19, and we're all quarantined, and you can see the world literally seemingly exploding in front of us. Music is now more important than ever. And it's important because it gives you the opportunity to do a lot of wonderful things with music. And this particular site has a lot of great benefits for music listening, not just music making. So if you could look at the table of contents, this sort of gives you an idea of what music can do for you during this time. It helps you think better, improves your memory, all right? It improves your workouts, obviously, and we definitely in quarantine, we need to move more. It's hard. We're losing our ability to just simply go and move around, just walking in your workplace, going to the store more frequently, hanging out with friends. Those all require movement, and we're not doing a lot of that. So the sort of challenge for us during this time is, how do we move? How do we continue moving our bodies and working out? Well, music can help you prompt that. It gives you more energy. All right. Music also helps you to heal. Gabby Giffords is a wonderful example of that. She attributes a lot of her, she's a congressperson, from Arizona, who was shot several years ago. And she's attributed a lot of her healing and bounce back to music therapy. So you want to check that out. It reduces stress, eases anxiety. I know we all need that during this time. And it also improves your sleep quality. And that sort of prompted what I've done for you here. And everyone's going to have a little assignment after all this, but I'm going to take you sort of through my life a little bit. And the other link that I sent you deals with how music sort of prompts you to bring back memories. Like a certain song, when played, can take you back to a certain place in time, can take you to a smell, a specific scene. And I just kind of wanted to give you a little glimpse of that while using my own life. And I began, and I'll share the screen again, I began putting a playlist together for you all. And it's our Hopkins Day at Home playlist. And I started by using my own life. You can see this playlist. It'll be growing as we continue in the course. But the first thing I want to do, hopefully you can all still see me, I believe you can, is just talk about one of the main influences of my life happened to me early on, and that was when my 6th grade band director gave me 2 CDs. One of the CDs was Miles Davis's CD, Kind of Blue. Now, I brought my vinyl from home, so you can see sort of where we're going. Yes, this is an actual LP of Kind of Blue, one of the most popular, if not the most popular jazz album ever created. There are only 5 tunes on this. So What, Freddie Freeloader, Blue and Green, All Blues, Flamenco Sketches. And Miles Davis did this album at a very critical period in jazz music, and it really set the world afire. But she gave me this album, and that sort of really changed my thinking. And one of the other albums she gave me was Miles Davis's album Amandla, which was later on in his life. Miles Davis, Kind of Blue, which you just saw here, was done, I believe it was either 59 or 61, something like that. Okay, but it was around that time period. Miles Davis, Amandla, was done in the 80s. And this was something that I loved a lot because it sounded more like the music that I was hearing on the radio. And I just want to play a little bit of one of the most influential tracks on it for me. And that is this tune, Katembe. So check it out. Now we have a lot of music to get through. so I'll be stopping and starting. And for me, you know, that particular tune, I can remember sitting in front of the little boombox that I had, putting the CD in and pushing play. And I remember being in my grandmother's room, and she had this terrible blue wallpaper. And I remember putting that on and looking at that wallpaper, and somehow or another, nothing, I couldn't see anything anymore. Literally, all I could do was hear sound. And that began sort of my love affair with the trumpet and with the whole, like, just a bigger umbrella of jazz music in general. Now, you may be thinking to yourself, like, well, that's not the jazz that I know. Jazz sounds like this to me. Jazz sounds like that. Well, jazz is interesting. And as we continue in the course, I'm going to get more specific about it. And I have my own little definition for jazz. And my little definition for jazz is that jazz is the sophisticated sonic representation of world pop culture. The sophisticated sonic representation of world pop culture. So it's a huge umbrella. And jazz musicians have the ability to take what is sort of popular sonically in a lot of different countries. So we're going to move on. So that was early on in my life. When I really got serious about the trumpet, I started to dive into a few other jazz trumpet players, Freddie Hubbard being one, Woody Shaw being a serious influence on me. And I was a weird kid in that while a lot of my other friends were listening to a lot of hip hop, I was driving around in high school blasting jazz music, specifically Woody Shaw. And that record is Woody Shaw's album, Rosewood. All right. It's an amazing album. Really, really, really fantastic. And I want to play a little bit of that for you here. And that is a tune called The Legend of Cheops. So I don't know if you can imagine seeing a kid from high school riding around playing that, that particular tune, just loud as hell. You know, so I was one of the weirdos in school. And that's what I listened to. Very fundamental in my development. When I got to undergrad, when I got to college, I started listening to a lot of jazz vocalists. And one of my favorites was Sarah Vaughan. And Sarah Vaughan's rich voice, Sarah Vaughan's ability to sound like an instrument when she sings. So you hear the melody, it's delivered clearly, the words are delivered clearly, but then she could scat and sound like a saxophonist or a trumpet player or something like that. And through my study and during the time I was really serious about this young lady, so I was in my heartstrings, I ran across this album, which is Sarah Vaughan with Count Basie. Sarah Vaughan with the Count Basie Orchestra. And while I was dating this young lady, we broke up. And I was playing this album a lot. And there's a tune on it that really just kind of, every time I hear it, it takes me back to that moment. And it continued to help me to get sort of through the varying emotional crises that happened in my life.
things, a dream for two. There are such things.
So that's that entire album, Sarah Vaughan with Count Basie, it is truly a gem. It is amazing. It's the perfect reflective music. It's pure. Anyone can relate to any of the songs that are on there. And it's just like magic. And the good thing also is that most of the songs are like 3 minutes long. so that's good as well. Right around that same time, I really started to get into the music of Aaron Copland. Most of you might be thinking like, well, this guy's a jazz musician. How is it that he's listening to all these different genres? Again, jazz musicians, frankly, any musician is really worth their salt. They study all music. And in the words of Duke Ellington, there are only two types of music, good and bad, right? So I like to take examples of the good music and learn from them no matter what. And while I was listening to Aaron Copland, I came across this album, which is Leonard Bernstein conducting the music of Aaron Copland, his good friend, specifically conducting Symphony No. 3 and Quiet City, which are amazing compositions by Aaron Copland. And my favorite track, I guess you could call it a track, on there is the second movement of it, which is Allegro Molto. Okay, so check this out. It's very difficult to cut that off. You have to just sit and you have to take it all in and to be able to reflect on those things. And so when I listen to symphonic music, multiple movement music, I like to do just that. I like to put on the record. I love vinyl. I mean, the next time we have our class, you'll be able to see my collection. I have several thousand vinyl records. And when I put on vinyl, I literally sit there in front of the speakers and I turn the phones off, I turn the television off, turn everything off, and I lose myself in the sound. And so that's a great record to do that with. When I graduated from Youngstown State University, I started to get into world music. I came across a vocalist who I just absolutely fell in love with, and her name is Gal Costa. She's a very well-known Brazilian vocalist, and specifically this album. It's a compilation that she did with Caetano Veloso. Wonderful, wonderful musician, wonderful songwriter. And this is one of the absolutely great albums of all time.
Coração não se cansa de ter esperança de dia ser tudo que quer. Meu coração de criança não é só a lembrança de vulto feliz de mulher que passou por meus sonhos sem dizer adeus. E fez dos olhos meus chorar mais sem fim.
Yes. That album is absolutely incredible. I mean, it's just warm, it's inviting. It's not the music's not in a hurry, it's soothing, exactly. It's just really fantastic music that just kind of just transports you to somewhere else. And I remember the stressful days in college and how it would seem like every assignment was due all at once. It would seem like like everything was just going to crash and explode. And I would put on some Gal Costa and I would immediately just chill out. And that flute choir, oh my God. I mean, it's just fantastic. And it's something that you don't hear a lot. You don't hear very often in any music, just a choir of flutes beautifully playing together and providing that perfect sort of underpinning for her voice. Graduating, I started to go on a road and play with various musicians. And during that time, I would try to get as far away from the type of music that I was performing as possible. Because that was my job, playing with the Jazz at Lincoln Center Orchestra, Wynton Marsalis. It's a lot of swing all the time. So when I would leave the gigs, a lot of times I would just put on like some really serious, like heavy metal or like some really deep hip hop. And one of my favorite hip hop artists is a cat by the name of Madvillain. And this is one of my favorite hip hop records. All right. This is something that he did. It's called the Abstract Orchestra, Volume 2. And actually, this particular album is interesting because a lot of the musicians are from Europe. A lot of the musicians that he used are from Europe. And I think some of you will be surprised when you hear this because it's not your typical hip hop sound, but check it out. Maybe I'll be able to convert some people here. This is a tune called The Meat Grinder. That you may not be thinking to yourself like, oh, that's not hip hop, but it actually is. Hip hop is so much more than someone just spitting 16 bars or, you know, rapping. There's a beat concept there. There's orchestration that goes into it. And hip hop music is directly linked to bebop, directly. There's a through line there that a lot of people don't discuss, and I'll talk about that in classes to come, okay? So it's really super killing. I mentioned that I like to listen to rock and roll music too, and one of my favorite bands is a band that's called King Crimson. And they sort of have a cult following. It's very, very difficult to find their albums, like the physical albums. You can find them obviously online or, you know, if you're streaming, but it's very difficult to find the physical manifestation of it. And this is probably their most well-known album. It's a crazy album cover, right? Super, super crazy. This is their first album, the first one that was ever done. This is a reissue because there's no way I'm ever going to take my original print out of my house. This is just too much, you know, it costs too much money. But this is a reprint of it, of their first album, which is called In the Court of the Crimson King. In the Court of the Crimson King. So I'm going to play a little bit of that for you. Pretty intense stuff. And this is a tune from it. Where did I put this on the list? There it is. Schizoid Man. Check it out. Now it's going to jump out at you, so brace yourselves. King Crimson. King Crimson is an amazing group. When you hear them, unfortunately, they were supposed to be in Baltimore back in, I think it was April. At the end of April, they were supposed to do a live concert. Obviously, that didn't happen. But they're one of the longest formed rock bands that has stayed together for a long time. They've been together almost 50 years. So it's pretty amazing. I think they're 41 years. They've been together for 41 years now. So it's really fantastic. And so now that kind of brings me to not modern times, but like current times for me and COVID, and what have I been listening to during COVID. And one of the folks that I listened to, actually my wife and I, we started to listen to it before COVID took place, and we really started to get into the music of Phoebe Snow. Phoebe Snow is someone that she should be known way more than what she's known. I mean, she's absolutely incredible. And the reason that she's not known as much is during the height of her career, she had a daughter, and the daughter suffered a traumatic brain injury. And she decided to come off the road to take care of her daughter, and the record business executives began to blackball her because she basically decided to choose family over being on the road constantly. And obviously, record industry being run by primarily, if not all of them being male executives, they didn't understand at that time. That was the late 70s. And so she sort of had she was still performing and doing things, but it wasn't nearly at the height of what she was doing. I bring that up because my wife, the 11-year-old that we have, she's 11 years from a previous relationship, but she also suffered a traumatic brain injury. So we started to really bond together over Phoebe Snow. And just believe it or not, right before the world shut down, March 12th, we had our first child together, 6-month-old little girl. And we decided to name the baby Phoebe. Her name is Phoebe Eileen, and after Phoebe Snow. So sort of a, thank you so much, sort of a bright light in this. And someone mentioned Phoebe's most popular tune, which is called Poetry Man. That album actually is called Phoebe Snow, in which that is on. So I'd like to play for you my favorite track from that album. It is called I Don't Want the Night to End. Really pay attention to the lyrics here, because they're pretty interesting.
Oh, mommy, mommy. Oh, mommy, mommy. Yeah. I stood too near the gaslight and I cried. The dirty city mist had seeped too deep inside. It took me on some kind of heady ride. It told me Charlie Parker died. And I don't want the night to end.
It's so crazy because I can literally remember the first time I heard it. And I'd heard the Poetry Man before and other tunes that she did. Actually, another favorite tune that I have of Phoebe Snow's is a tune that's called Have Mercy on Those Men with No Feelings. Have mercy on those men with no feelings. So I know a few tunes that she does. And but that particular tune just literally takes me back, like all the things that I play, it takes me back to a specific moment in time. And like any other class, you got to have an assignment. So here's everyone's assignment, okay? Your assignment is to identify 5 tunes, 5 pieces of music that you could say that those pieces of music are the soundtrack of your life. And with each tune, you have to describe what you were thinking about during that time, where you were, what was going on in your life. And that particular tune is the soundtrack for it. And by identifying that and having that tune and saying, this is this place in time for me, then every time you go back and listen to that tune, you can immediately be taken to that place. And that's the beauty of music. So, does everyone understand the assignment? All right. I look forward to the next class.